See, we talk a lot about God revealing himself to us, but we're on a quest to know who we are in God. And we've got to allow God to reveal us to us. Nobody knows you better than you, but God knows you better than you. And God will allow those times, if you give him time, to reveal himself to you. And so if I was to use the Gideon example, Gideon put his fleece out because he was trying to get God. In Judges chapter 6, you'll get the story of Gideon trying to get confirmation from God as God is calling him to this really incredible thing that was bigger than him. And Gideon wanted to make sure, God, I want to make sure I'm hearing from you. And so he puts the fleece out. He says, God, if this is you and what you're telling me to do, if it's you, I'm going to put this fleece out. And tomorrow I want the ground to be dry and the fleece to be wet. He got up the next day and the ground was dry and he could wring water out the fleece. I think that might have been enough. But Gideon was like, God, I really know, maybe this is what you're telling me, but if I just want you to confirm it for me one more time. I'm gonna put the fleece back out again, but this time I want the ground to be wet and the fleece to be dry. He go back out there and the ground is wet the next day and the fleece is dry. He's like, man, well, I guess that must be what you're telling me to do. And so he goes, and it's a longer story about Gideon, leading 300 to in a battle, as God is whittling the numbers down to who is going to go into this fight. Much longer story. But the point of what I want to say is that Gideon put his own fleece out because Gideon was looking for confirmation from God about what God was telling him. Don't let nobody else put the fleece out for you. Don't let anybody else put the fleece out for you. And now they're now determining God's will for you. No, you put your own fleece out because you're in your relationship with God. And God is revealing himself to you more and more. My job as your pastor is not, listen, if I set myself up, and it's a crazy thing to do, and I know people who have done this, I know pastors who have done this, that operate from the premise that if God has spoken something to you, that if it has anything to do with church and ministry, then God's going to tell me as your pastor first. And so you come to me and you say, God is speaking this thing to my life. And I say to you, well, God hadn't confirmed that with me, so he must not be telling you that. That's a crazy place for any pastor to put themselves. To say that before God tells you, he's got to tell me first. I believe God speaks to me for the direction of Fortified City. I believe God speaks to me for the direction of the family. But who am I to say that God has to run what he tells you by me? I'll say it to you like this. If you got more than one child and you tell one of your children to tell the other child that you said do something. Let's just say you told the younger child to go tell your oldest child to take out the trash. And they go and they say, Mama said, go take out the trash. And the older child told the younger child that if Mama want me to take out the trash, you tell Mama I said, tell me herself. I believe there's some folk in here just got a shiver, just went through your spine. To say, yeah, I'm gonna tell you, when I get there, I'm gonna tell you, but it ain't gonna go well, And so at the end of the day, we gotta be mindful of how we receive God revelations. That I'm not gonna set myself up as your pastor and put myself in some unrealistic space where anything God is telling you to do related to God's stuff, he got to tell me first. He don't have to tell me anything. Who am I to put that kind of an expectation on God? No, God is the one who gets to make expectations. I don't get to put expectations on God. God gets to put expectations on me. And so what I am here to do is that when God is revealing things to you and God is leading you in directions, if God has made me your pastor, then I believe I have a responsibility to prepare you for what God is speaking into your life. If God is speaking something into your life and you're going to do it 3 years later, and God's going to say, now is the time to go. And you are sitting in this ministry, and God told you 3 years ago that that's what God is going to have you do. You tell me today, and God tells you to do it in 2025. You tell me this is where God is leading you. And in 2025, God says, go. And as your pastor, I have done nothing to prepare you for where God is taking you, then I am a failure. Period. I truly believe it, that whatever God is speaking in your life as your pastor, I should be working to prepare you for where God is taking you next. There's some people that God will call and they will stay in Fortified City their whole lives. There's some people that God is calling to be at Fortified City who are here for a time. And if God is revealing something to you, it is my responsibility. I have a requirement. It is my calling to prepare you for what God is sending you out to do next. And whether that's internal to Fortified City or external in some other way, I have a responsibility. And if I don't do it, I believe I am failing God. So when I go back to this whole piece about callings, as Jesus is dealing with that calling from God in Matthew 1, if I don't understand how the calling works and how I must incorporate it in everything I'm doing, and I'm saying this to me, I'm talking about me, but say the same thing for your own life, then I am in some way not seeing the calling in the fullest way that I can see it. Because the calling should not only apply to me, I've got to ask, how do I leverage what God is calling me to do in the lives of everybody that he has placed in my life? Because the calling is not for me. Your calling is not for you. If you haven't ever written that down, write it down today. Your calling is not for you. You got to walk it, but your calling will benefit the people around you. It benefits the people that God is putting you in their lives. He emptied himself. That's why we're going to talk about Jesus as the model for leadership. He left it all on the court. His last words on the cross was, "It is finished. I've done everything I'm here to do." And everything he did benefited every one of us. And if we don't understand that what God is calling us to do is to add value into the lives of everybody around us, then we're missing the full extent of the calling on our lives. You are my son. You are my daughter, in whom I am well pleased. And what I am now pushing you out to do is going to benefit not only you, you'll get some benefits from it. Jesus benefited from it. He built relationships. He was able to leverage everything he knew and who he was and recreate himself in many, many people. And he's still recreating himself in people today. And so the challenge for us is, how can I become everything God is calling me to be to the benefit of everybody else? And if And if I'm trying to benefit everybody else, ultimately I'll get benefits. I'll benefit from it, but I'm not, the benefit's not coming because I'm creating the benefit. I'm creating the benefit for everybody else. I will ultimately benefit by default. Where we miss it is when we're taking the call of God and we're using it to our own benefit, and now it does not benefit everybody else. And what we've done is we've taken the things of God and co-opted them for our own benefit and not to the benefit of God's people. And everybody is God's people, whether they recognize it or not, whether they accept him or not, he still created them. And we've got to learn how to love people the way God loves them and how to add value into the lives of people, because that is who we are and what he's called us to do.